As we said, the clean tech sector or industry is split up in different sectors, and some sectors are extremely capital intensive. It takes a lot of money, and it also takes a lot of time. And Anders, what is your view on that? Are there enough VCs? Is there enough money, and is there enough patience among the VCs to be able to follow the company for maybe 5 to 7, maybe 8 years before you have some sort of breakthrough after investment?
Especially in the clean tech sector, like in pharma, there tend to be a long cycle. Certain segments are very long cycles. That's even worse,
yes.
And there is a problem, especially now when we've had a few difficult years. There are no exits. So if you look at the typical fund, even if you still have money in the fund to invest, the management team is fully absorbed just managing the existing portfolio. So you have very limited capacity to add on new investments, even if you would have the money. So there is a very tricky situation, actually, for many VCs today. In Sweden, I think there are actually scarcity of money, and we have, over the recent few weeks, those who have read the newspapers, there is a debate started by one of the pension funds. The pension funds is actually have a charter to invest in early stage companies. But they are evaluated by the government or by their owner as if they were like any other pension fund investor. So they are starting to debate around early stage investing. Does it pay off? But what you read in newspapers is one thing. What the actual debate is about is another thing. So it's a little messy. But I get the question, it doesn't pay off to invest in early stages. And the average return on early stage investment is lower than buyout investment if you look at over many years. But if you look at the 25% best VC funds, they're doing really well. So it is, as always, there are several nuances to every question in this field. But I think there is, in Sweden, actually too little capital. Quite a few of the VCs have left the field. There are not really many local investors left.
Yeah. Right.
So we have a number of companies now where we are talking to investors, and we have always to talk, at least include non-Swedish investors in syndication discussions.
Yes, that's how you have solved this requirement to team up and ensure that the right money is available.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Paul, you had a comment there.
I think there are some subsectors in the clean tech which are really suffering right now, also in the past and the good times, to prove their processes. I'm mainly referring to companies which are active in developing biochemical and thermochemical processes. We have seen some presentations this morning. And these companies, they have to move from lab to pilot, from pilot to demonstration, from demonstration to commercial. And for a lot of these steps, there's no money available, because even we as venture capitalists, we have the tendency to look to these companies when they are close to the commercialization step. But who is going to finance the pilots? Who is going to finance the demonstration pilot? And there the government need to be involved. And this is not only a problem in Sweden, but it's a problem everywhere in Europe. There's a little difference, I think, in the US, where a lot of money is flowing into the biofuel area, for instance. But in Europe, that's a real problem, and it's a little bit pity, because I think there's very good universities in the field of industrial biotech, in the field of green chemistry here in Europe, but they don't have the money to prove to come to a commercial development of a commercial process.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Mike.
I think there's a general problem in the venture community, sort of clean tech aside, where, you know, like you said, the top 20% are doing well, but I mean the rest of the VC market isn't. You know, I think there are a lot of VCs, returns aren't great, and illiquidity is stretched out very, very long. I know I'm an investor in some, you know, tier 1 VC funds, and a lot of their funds, you know, are really getting stretched out, where, you know, maybe a fund that probably thought it was going to return capital in 5 years, 7 years is, you know, 10 years and still hasn't returned capital. Forget about an ROI. So I think we are going to see a bit of a shakeout, at least in the US, and I think as funds have gone to raise new funds, you know, VCs have gone to raise new, we've seen that. So where an NEA or a COSLA can raise their big funds, I think a lot of the tier 2 VCs are probably struggling. I think a lot of them will probably close up shop.
Mm-hmm. I see. Yeah. Talking about major capital, I know that Wind with Lassi have been able to raise 20 million euros in India 2006 and then another 120 million euros in Abu Dhabi 2008. And my question to you then is, how do you dress the bride for that?
Well, you don't dress the bride. At least we didn't. And the thing is that I don't think you can pull through a process like that if you were dressing the bride. There are a couple of things. First of all, the amount of capital is linked to the business where you are. And in some other business, probably a tenth of that amount would be equally challenging. But my experience is that what you have to do is that you have to have a very high ambition level. And you know, it may sound self-evident, but it's not. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You have to make a very compelling business plan.
Yeah.
And compelling means that it has to be credible, but it has to be ambitious. You have to have the attitude and self-confidence and selling skills.
Yes.
At the end of the day. In infrastructure technology, you're only looking at incremental improvements vis-a-vis existing technology, and there can be a dozen competitors. I think it boils down to the sales skills. And in our case, one thing led to another. I think our big idea was that we decided to raise the 20 million from India. It was like a known decision to make kind of an emerging markets play rather than collect that kind of money from Scandinavia, which we could have probably done. We wanted to get to the Indian market. Yeah. And then one thing led to another. Once we were an Indian player, then it attracted even larger capital, and our story was much bigger because we had a credible pitch to Indian market. So we, in a way, did it the unconventional way. And then finally, I think you have to, in your sales pitch, and we heard many today, and I think it's not exactly science, it's also kind of art, and you have to take into consideration what does the investor want. In our case, Indian conglomerate has their own agenda. You study what they do, what they like to see happen, and in case of Abu Dhabi, it's a government arm of a kind of a semi-political, if you like. They are pitching for IRENA, they got the head office. You study these things, and then you fine-tune what you're offering to this. So
making your homework so you understand the counterpart.
Right.
And see that you blend into that and then take advantage of what the leverage could be.
Yeah, you bring to the table those things that you could probably offer to them that would be of value to them.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, it was very good done anyhow.